What's the Faithful 101?
Faithful 101. It's Faithful 101, man.
Is that just something
It's
you
Faithful
decided
101.
to create?
Thou shalt be faithful to the 49ers. Thou shalt root for the Niners. Rain.
We should run with that.
Sleet or snow. I am going to run with it.
Maybe we can see when we come up with that.
Faithful 101. You know? Be faithful
And then
to the red and gold.
Red and gold.
That's what it's all about. It's Faithful 101. Going one-on-one with fellow faithful members. Just talking stories and talking, of course, Niners football. That's why we're all in this together.
Exactly.
You know? Right now, with my good man, my buddy, my brother from another mother, my man Chris Culler.
How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Welcome.
How are you doing, man?
This is awesome.
Yeah, hey.
This is a new way to get out and talk to people.
Exactly. You know, this is an away game for me, if you will. You welcoming me into your humble abode. Appreciate that.
It's nice to get away, but then have fun about it.
Exactly. You know, and what more fun than talking about Niners? What's more fun than that?
Nothing.
Exactly.
And football's less than a month away.
Exactly. At training camp.
Training
Right
camp's
around the corner.
6 days or 7 days.
Yeah. We're right there. We're on the cusp of some real football.
Can't wait to see some games again this year.
Exactly. So hold on, Chris. Before we get into Niners football, would you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
So I'm 48. I'm a firefighter in Baltimore City, Maryland.
All right.
Been down there for almost 20 years.
Wow.
I started volunteering 35 years ago, and it just basically from a volunteer aspect right into a career aspect. And I love what I do. I love helping people, getting out there and getting involved. And you know, when people have their worst time ever, you're there to help them.
Right.
And that's the big thing, you know. And there is that adrenaline kick when you see fire or smoke coming out of somebody's house. And there is kind of that extra addition of having everything there. It's like, what happens? And you have to make decisions right there. Almost like a quarterback. Sometimes, you know, I had to relate it that. They had to make a decision right now.
Right.
And it's constantly a changing evolution in the fire service and EMS and helping people.
Wow. It's almost, you say, 30 years of doing it?
Yep.
Starting from when you were a volunteer?
Yeah, I started when I was 16 years old. And
16?
been doing it ever since.
Did you always know you wanted to be a firefighter, or did you just start volunteering as something to do?
Yes, I did always want to do it in the fire department. I always thought what was cool was to see people riding on a fire engine and sirens and blowing through red lights and riding around. I thought it was always a cool thing.
So you were one of those kids who were like, when I grow up, I want to be a firefighter.
Yes.
And you actually did.
And I actually did it, yes.
Did.
And I still think, and it's hard for people to say, you're doing your dream. Mm-hmm. When you were a kid, hey, I want to be a fireman, here I am.
Yeah.
And they pay you to do this kind of work. And it's, yes, it is a hard job, but they are paying you to do it all.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
It's people like you to keep us safe ultimately.
Exactly. You know, somebody's got to do it. Some people can't do it. So you have the people that have the heart and that mentality to go out there and get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a lot about heart because, you know, you're giving of yourself to service, truly service others. And, you know, there's no bigger thing, to be honest with you. So once again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, you know, I know you've probably gone through some crazy things in your time, seen some crazy things in your time. You know, is there any story that you can tell us about something that happened, you know, while you're on the job, something you've seen?
So we go out to this lady that had a headache.
Okay.
I'm like, a headache? I'm like, why are you calling 911 for a headache? You know, take some Tylenol. So we go into the house, and the house, everything's got plastic on the windows. And she's, well, I got to go upstairs and show you something. So we go upstairs, and there's aluminum foil on every wall, every ceiling. And she said, I have a headache because the government is looking in and checking me out. And they are sending me these weird vibes in my head, and I have a headache, and I need help. The group, the three that were with me, the two others were with me, we kind of look at each other like, okay, what are we supposed to do? Mm-hmm. And it's like, these people are truly, like, sick. Mm-hmm. You know, not only with a headache, but maybe some other sickness.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like, why are we here? And it's like, this is strange because there's literally aluminum foil everywhere.
Right.
There wasn't an inch of wall, inch of ceiling. And
Yeah.
she said they're trying to get into her mind and tell her what to do, and she needed us to help her out.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like one of them things like, okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
You have a nice day, lady. We're leaving.
But that's the thing, you know, when people think of firefighters, though, they just think of you guys just running toward fire all the time. But it's much more than that.
The big thing with the fire department is we're a catch-all.
Mhm.
When you need help for anything, from water leaks to noises in your basement. I've had to break in through a lock because they left their dog in the basement and they couldn't get in the basement. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff that has happened.
Right.
Besides that, it's because people come out and they know that they can trust the fire department to help them out. We're not going to give them a hard time. We're not going to be disrespectful to them. We all know that, hey, we got this problem, or they have a problem.
Mhm.
It's not ours, it's theirs, that we can solve either quickly or move on, or provide somebody that can come do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Very
And you
good.
guys have like medical aid training as well,
Yes,
don't you?
yes. I've been a paramedic now for 15 years, and
Man.
I can I do a lot of stuff with the patients that I get there before the ambulance gets there.
So you're truly saving lives.
When
on
it
job. When it calls for it, yes, you need to. Yeah.
You know, it's all about helping people, and that's
Yeah.
all I've ever done. You know, I've been so outgoing with how I've been. I'm always outgoing, working for people, helping people. You know, trying to make people laugh, smile.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always involved with a lot of stuff too, and that kind of right there all helps with back to helping people.
Yeah, that's the core value.
That's the core value.
That's awesome. Amazing. Amazing. So, a few years ago, you needed some help though.
Well, 8 years ago, earlier this month, I started having some chest pain.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up in the hospital and wanted to have bypass surgery. It's like, oh, here you go, have a nice day, have your surgery. It was a quick onset, and basically they saved my life. Everything from what the doctors were telling me could have happened, and there's people that, when it does happen, and they call it the widowmaker, they just die.
Mm-hmm. But yours wasn't just like a one simple bypass.
Oh, no, it was 5.
Quintuple bypass.
People are like, what? Yes, that's crazy. And I'm young. Yes, I was 40.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the short straw. I'm the unlucky guy that has it, and never knew I had an issue until a couple days before all of it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, it was a life's curveball.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally was able to hit it back, and here I am. I'm here back to normal, and do what I got to do.
Health's okay
Health's
right
fine,
now.
yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Doctor's happy, except, you know, we can always lose weight, which doctors tell everybody to lose weight.
Yeah.
You know, they want you to be bean poles, I think.
Right. Well, you know, health is major importance.
Exactly.
You know, and I'm
Can't
glad
help
you're
people
healthy.
if you're out.
Exactly. You know, it's good to see you up,
That's true.
healthy, doing well. You know, and I'm sure part of your recovery process was 49ers.
So, everybody knows Matt Maiocco, right? We all, come on now.
Yep. We
The
all
man,
know
the
about
myth,
Matt.
the 49er newsman legend. Actually sent me a Facebook message. Put it right on there. Hey, let's get better. A lot of people liked it that I didn't even know. People that I knew liked it. It was just a different philosophy of how people out there do care, and not that just people that your family and your friends, but people that you've never met. And it was lucky because a few years later, we actually get to meet him and shake his hand when we were out at Candlestick Park several years later. So it was neat to see somebody like that everybody listens to, everybody reads, because he's such an integral part of the news from the team.
Yeah. And it's amazing for Matt to just take a moment out,
Exactly.
reach out to you, you know, a fan, someone, like you said,
Every year,
you know?
every year it pops up on Facebook. I read it and I smile and giggle, and it's like, God, I want to have a beer with him now.
The gift that keeps on giving. Hey, Matt, if you're out there watching, this man wants to have a drink with you.
Yes.
So let's make that happen.
Yes, exactly. I agree with you.
He's buying too.
Yes,
so
I'll buy too.
Drink up, buddy. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, all right. 49ers now, hold on. You're living in Maryland, and I know you come from a diverse, team, family-oriented background. Just tell us about that for a second.
So my mom was a huge Cowboys fan. Her favorite player was Tony Dorsett and Danny White.
Okay.
We're going back into the 70s. She always loved the Cowboys, even when she was a kid. I don't know what she ever saw in them. She never did tell us why, or except that there were stars on their helmets. My father was actually originally a Colts fan. Then he followed the Ravens after the Colts had left. My brother turned into a Redskin fan. We don't know what happened to him. He's still, I guess he fell on his head or something. I dropped him when I was younger, or hit him too hard when we were fighting. So I was a Colts fan, and when they left, I had to have a team. When they left in '83, I kept watching the 49ers. I love the red. I love gold. Well, everybody loves gold. I see that color, and I just attached myself. And I've been with them ever since, through thick and thin, through the bad years, the last, on and off 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And I've followed them. I've been able to see them numerous times in Philly, in Washington, in Baltimore, and even in Candlestick Park, like you and everybody else,
Awesome.
I want to hopefully get to see them again play this year, possibly in Vegas. One day I'll make it to the new stadium out to Levi's.
Yeah, out to Levi. Yeah, got to. I have not been a Levi myself, but I'm not going to do it this year. I'm going to be I'm still a road warrior. I'm going to support the team on the road, but next year, 2023, I'm making a mission. Get out to Levi. We'll get out there together.
Get out there and do it all.
That's right. We'll get out there.
Invite anybody else. All want to come? We'll just have one big party in the parking lot.
No, the party out there has got to be amazing.
Yes,
so
because it was amazing when we went to Candlestick.
The stick was rocking. So
and we got invited to places. People were just inviting us. Come on, have a drink. Come on, have a drink.
That's part of the faithful community.
And that was something that was so cool because we didn't know anybody out there. It was two of us coming from the East Coast, flying out there, and come on, let's go. We met some really decent guys out there, and I still talk to one of them every once in a while. And we gab with some 49ers.
Exactly.
Shout out to the Fricker man.
Yep, Fricker. Gotta love Fricker, man. No shirt. Every game, rain, sleet, snow, 0 degrees. He's out there.
Yes,
yeah.
Named his kids after all Niners.
Yep.
So he's into it.
Yeah, that's a true member of the faithful community right there. Okay, so do you have a favorite Niners player? I tell you what, let's phrase it like this. Do you have an all-time favorite Niners player? All time.
I love Steve Young.
Steve Young, okay.
I thought Steve Young was a master because he looked around. We all love Joe. We love Jerry. We love a lot of players. Yeah. It's hard to pick a certain player, but I like Steve because he was so smart. He watched what he did. He knew he knew when to run. He was the first player, in my opinion, that was able to set up the run, or he could run himself, but still throw the ball. He had the innate ability of watching the field. I think that's a lost art in the NFL these days. I think Trey Lance could learn tons from Steve Young.
They've been talking
by watching how he did it back then. And Trey Lance has abilities that Steve doesn't have. I think Lance has got a bigger arm. I think he's a little bit stronger. But, of course, everybody's stronger in the NFL than people were 20 years ago. I also like a lot of fringe players. I loved Andy Lee.
That was my next question. Besides the top headline guys, is there like a fringe player, bottom guy that no one talks about that you just love?
I love Andy Lee.
Andy Lee.
I love Garrison Hurst. I love Ricky Waters. I love the running backs that could catch the ball that were all part of how do we do it.
True West Coast offense was using the backside.
Those are the players. When it comes to defense, I loved Merton Hanks. I love Dante Whitner. I'm going to go back and say Dana Hall from back in the 80s. I thought he was he was never the best, but he was always smart. And when you look at those old 80s teams, they weren't super strong, awesome players. They just were good players. They were smart. They knew what's going on. They were well coached. They were well organized. That was what I think set the 80s team better than even over the 90s teams. They were organized. They knew what was going on.
That's very true. Yeah, that's the way Walsh ran
Quality
things.
Players.
Yeah, that's the way Walsh ran things. Everything was organized to a T. Everything had a rhythm. You don't get coaching like that.
No, you don't.
Yeah, that's why the Walsh go.
Exactly.
Go coach.
The goat.
I can't blame.
And how many people are still off his tree? A lot more.
That tree just keeps growing.
And keeps going. And now they always say, oh, it's the Andy Reid tree. No, it's not the Andy Reid tree.
No.
It's the boss tree that Andy fell off of, who planted another tree, and then everybody comes off of his. But you got to go back to the original tree. So that's how I look at it.
He created an entire offense that is still used to this day.
That's been taken and modified other places.
Yeah, but it's still the core value of the West Coast offense. It's West Coast principles. I mean,
I think it's even more with him. You have to look past that, and that's why I go back to how his defenses. His teams were so disciplined.
Yeah.
They didn't make mistakes. They fumbled occasionally. Everybody makes mistakes, but they were disciplined.
Yeah.
They had guys that weren't superstars playing awesome.
Very true.
I mean, having Ronnie Lott as a defensive back who seemed to show up everywhere. He's like several others that have been like that over the years.
Indeed. All right, so we all know the highlight moments for the Niners, right? The catch, 1, 2, 3. The pick at the stick. Joe hitting John Taylor back of the end zone. Do you have a favorite moment of the Niners?
So it was Monday Night Football when John Taylor ran, 92 yards. It was a short pass.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Monday Night Football game, and Taylor ran 92 yards. And I was screaming so loud, my father came out of the bedroom and screamed at me because I woke him up.
Was that the Rams game?
I think it might have been versus the Rams.
Yep.
That was right. And my second favorite play was the Justin Smith interception in Philly during the snowstorm, the day after the big blizzard, and he ran it back, I think he did run it all the way back that game, but that set the Eagles fans all just in a tizzy, and I love to see Eagles fans in tizzies. It's so funny to watch them complain. But that was my two probably favorite plays of seeing that I can go back to and say, hey, those two plays are like, wow. And I know John Taylor play was just so awesome to see him. It was like, and then later on he had another long pass in that same game. It was like they forgot about him, and he was just there and was gone.
We were losing that Rams game, and Joe hit John, and John took off.
Yes,
he did the rest.
And those were just the two of my favorite plays. I mean, I have some plays that I don't like.
Well, tell us
about
my first few. What were the heartbreaking plays?
My two heartbreaking plays is the Dexter Culler fumble, NFC Championship game at the goal line that we would have won that game if he would have got that touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Young hands it to him. Next thing I know, he's going through a pile and the ball's out. Dexter Culler probably fumbled more than he actually carried, probably. Sorry, Dexter, if you're listening to this. But that hurt. And the other play was the Super Bowl when they had so many holding plays when Jacoby ran the Super Bowl,
the Super Bowl
versus the Ravens. Jacoby ran the kickoff back. And you could actually see on the front page of the Baltimore Sun the hold in the back of the picture where Jacoby's running down the field and the hold in the background where they're really holding the whole team. That was probably the worst officiated football game I've ever seen, ever. And that's like, you wanted the Ravens to win. And I guess I keep looking at the camera because I think sometimes the camera needs to know exactly what's going on.
Well, you need to tell people directly.
Yes, there's
how you're
a problem.
Feeling.
I see that game,
especially,
and all of a sudden the power goes out. I mean, it's just a lot of little things. And yes, you got to give it to Ray Lewis. Blah blah blah. He was there. When they wanted him. He got a Super Bowl, whatever. But that was the worst play. If that would have been called back, that was their set. That was their role that they got to get back into the game. If not, we won.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of the faithful, you're not going to get any arguments about that. Holding my words, the bad officiating in that game. Just the simple fact. Corey Williams, the Ravens DB, gets up, two-hand shoves a ref. Nothing happened. No flag at all about that. You can't touch a ref. I've seen plays where people have bumped into refs accidentally and gotten thrown out of a game. He literally two-hand shoved the ref.
I think we could probably have a whole episode on that game.
We could. But
yes,
once again,
because we'll sit here by the time we get done this, we're going to be 8 hours.
Yeah, but terribly efficient. Yeah, those are heartbreakers for sure.
So they're
Yes,
probably my
I
two
agree.
worst.
Yeah.
There's been other games that you see them screw up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and most of them are screw ups because I think a lot of times we are our own worst enemies, especially over the last probably 10 years, where we lose the game and not the other team.
Right. Exactly.
Heart seem to. I think there's some heart issues sometimes with this team, with the current team, but that's a whole other story.
Well, speaking of the current team, training camp is upon us. No more speculating. We're the 2022 49ers are here. What do you see? What do you like about our current team?
I think it's a lot more balanced. If we can keep Debo happy, I think there's more balance. I know that there's the quarterback thing. I think Lance could work good because he's got people around him that know how to play football.
Yeah.
With Ayuk, who really had a great season, with Juwan Jennings, who came on, I think if we can run better with Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon and the rest of them, if we can do that, along with, I also think getting George Kittle back into it. I think Kittle was less used as a receiver and more as a blocker late in the season, which I kind of didn't understand. I kind of like that. I like that the defensive, I think that we're finally going into a season where most of the defensive players are healthy. That's one of the first times we assume, you know, is Jason Verrett, who was having a great start of the season and blows his things out. I know he's older now. What do we do? How does he portray? I also see a little bit of a young core and a decent draft the last couple of years where they've gotten these fringe players that are able to come in and help out a little bit. But then on the other hand, I do believe I'm worried about the interior defensive line. I'm worried about the interior offensive line. Who's going to play center? Losing our center, losing Alex this year was very hard. But I think they have a lot of decent players around there that could fill in that spot that we could either move in and out. And I think there's some flexibility with some of the guys this year that can play center. I know that's a number one. The center is one of the most highest rated positions on this team because of how he runs the offense, how the offense is run. Also think who's going to be next to Jimmy Ward. How is that going to work out? Are the corners going to be a step ahead this year than they were last year? Are some of the numbers I've seen through Pro Football Focus has been phenomenal in what they look at on each position. And you see how some of them are really good and how some of them have been really bad. And you can see how they were rookies. So how does all that correlate back in? Also, the second year of Ryan's. What does he come as a defensive coordinator? I thought at the beginning of the year the defense looked just lost. As the season went on, they got better and better and better, and they got smarter. Let's see how that works this year. Does the new rookie, our first round rookie, does he go out and get 10, 12 sacks next to Bosa? Now they got to worry about two people on the line coming in, because Bosa's double teamed all the time.
Well, there's a lot of moving parts. Correct. And this is the excitement of training camp and preseason football. We get to see all these battles take place. We get to see how the offensive line shakes up. Is it Jake Brendel, who has been working with Trey Lance the past year and has gotten glowing reviews from guys like Trent Williams about how smart he is on the line? Is he going to be the guy who takes that center position, or is it someone else? Like you mentioned, the versatility. A lot of the guys on the offensive line are versatile, where they can possibly move into a different spot from where they're normally playing. That's the beauty of camp. We get to see all this unfold, and it's exciting times.
It's exciting. This team is it's like a big giant puzzle. If all the pieces are there, we're gonna be the best. It's one of the toughest divisions in the league. Years ago they were always worrying about who's going to be the under 500 team from the NFC West. They're going to make the playoffs. Well, now you got 4 teams that technically could all make the Super Bowl. I mean, of course, Seattle. Sorry, Seattle fans. I don't think you have anything now that you lost your quarterback.
Let's pump our brakes there. I don't think Seattle's
But
They drew
Arizona,
out,
and you had the Rams who did win it. You have to give it to them; they did win it.
Indeed.
But so there, you have a team that already won the Super Bowl, and Arizona, who's as upstart as they come. They're aggressive.
Kyler Murray just got his big contract,
big money. So that always makes people feel
It'd be
better.
fun.
Why? I don't know.
Whatever.
I guess when you have millions of dollars, it makes anybody feel better.
Exactly. Yeah. Is there any one position group or player that you're looking forward to see this preseason?
Of course, Lance. That's the top.
That's the focus.
I also believe what is the offensive line. Well, we're going to even go offensive line. We're going to go back toward the back. George Odom, Hufanga. What are we going to do with that? And I think that's the biggest key. The NFL passes the ball a lot. It's like 70-30.
Yep.
How do we stop that? Do we get these guys to take the next step? Does Verrett come back on his 1-year contract? Does he play better? I mean, does he play healthy? That's the biggest thing. Where do we go from there? Those are the guys that really is my concern. The main cores are there. Greenlaw's, hopefully he'll be back to be healthy. And the rest of them, we all know there's main positions. Where do we go and how does everything coordinate?
Yeah. One thing I can say is that the secondary looks very strong. We signed Charvarius Ward from the Chiefs.
Yes. Oh, that means there's your
CB1,
corner. There's your starting corner.
Exactly. He's our starting left corner.
Yes.
Emmanuel Mosley can easily resume his position as starting right corner, or if Verrett steps up, he's out there.
I think nickel cornerback is still up in the air.
Nickel corner is up in the air. It's who takes over that position. And because of the depth we have there that we've never had before, it's going to make for an interesting camp battle to see what the coaches do, to see what Ryans does there.
We also have a very, very good non-drafted player pool this year.
Yes,
There's some guys out there that this year, being that we had the COVID year where people didn't play, there was a lot of NFL players that didn't get drafted that could be on teams. And I see that on us. That guy, the Joe, can't think of his name, he's offensive lineman. He's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
He came from a small school, so we'll see what he can do. Can he step in and work at a guard? But apparently he can play everywhere on the line. Yep. So that's great.
His name escapes me now.
Yes,
also.
Joe something. Yeah. And you got Wash. Is Glenn McGlinchey going to step back in and take that next step? From being hurt. But all those individual players with what we brought in, non-roster invitees or however they're said, those players there are going to be the extra on the top of the cake for this team.
Yep, it's the icing on top of the cake.
Because couldn't go out and spend a lot of money this year.
No.
With
just not what we normally do anyway.
I also believe there's still what happens with what do we do with Jimmy G? Does he leave?
We'll see.
We'll see. That's going to be interesting in the next couple weeks.
The hard deadline is August 30th, I believe, before his salary becomes guaranteed. So we'll just sit back, let it play out.
Yep.
For right now, I think we should all focus on these young guys, focus on Lance, let things play out and see how this 90-man roster trims down to 53, and let's go into battle with these 53, Because it's going to be an exciting year.
We open up with
Chicago,
a team that hasn't been that good. Mm-hmm. So it'd be nice to get out there and do some testing with them. But we do have a very hard schedule this year. We're one of the hardest schedules as usual. Top five all the time.
All the time.
And it's hard when you're playing other teams that are in your own division that are always that good.
Do you have a schedule prediction?
I'm going to go 11-6.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because this team still has to get it together, and that quarterback question mark,
mm-hmm.
From a guy who really hasn't played.
Yep.
And he got 60-some passes or 70-some passes last year. Where do we stand? And I think the schedule's tough enough with Green Bay. You've got some really, if we can split with LA, we were lucky this year to beat them 2 times. I mean, wish we beat them 3, but those 2 times we beat them, the team's still good. Yes. So if we split them and split with Arizona and maybe sweep Seattle, 11 games in a division like that and in the NFC, which is really, NFL's become very competitive everywhere.
Yep.
So, 11 and 6, 11 and 6 is the 17 teams. 17 games now.
Yep, that's good start. That's a good record though. Definitely a
And that can still
playoff
make
record.
that's a playoff record and put you in the playoffs.
Yeah. You see us going far in the playoffs.
I think this team, if it goes to the playoffs, we have just as good a chance to beating everybody and going all the way to the end. I think that this year showed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had more holes than Swiss cheese this year going into the playoffs where people thought we didn't even have a chance.
That's true.
And, to be basically a field goal away from winning it, with a team, in my opinion, that actually is probably better.
Mm-hmm.
I think the draft we had this year, the defensive line, what can we do? Getting everybody, all the running backs back, what can we really do to get that next step?
That's a key question. I think on paper we look solid. The optimism is high.
Exactly.
We're all faithful.
Yes.
The quest for 6 is been a long time coming, but I think the writing's on the wall. I think we're close. I think we're there. We've been to the NFC Championship game 2 out of the last 3 years.
Exactly.
Super Bowl appearance. All the pieces are coming together. Where we're, the road to the Super Bowl is going through San Francisco.
Exactly.
And the NFL is always better.
Yes.
When San Francisco.
Well, if we can host the NFC Championship, then people got to come out there and play.
If we get the best record in the league somehow, and teams got to come to Levi, they're in trouble.
Exactly.
They're in trouble because the faithful is showing out.
They've gotten better. I'm glad that last year they really
excited.
got to see the fans back in the stands.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
COVID and it's cool to see other fans at the stadiums I've been to with Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington.
Yep.
Sometimes in Washington I thought there was more 49er fans than there was Redskins fans last time. But
we're road warriors. We were
go.
on deep.
Let's go.
Remember Sea Red in Dallas? We took over Dallas a couple of times. We took over LA. That's Levi South.
Yeah, Levi South.
Wherever we go, Red is out there.
To see them cry in Los Angeles was so nice. You can't sell tickets to 49. You can't, if they live in this area code, you can't sell tickets. I'm like, are you kidding me?
They did all they could to keep us out, and we still represent.
Still showing it up.
That's what we do.
Exactly.
That's faithful. That's faithful 101. We show up and we show out. Period.
We should sell them shirts to everybody. We could just make
Get
a
faithful merch.
Get some faithful merch right here.
Oh man. Well, Chris, this has been awesome.
Yes.
It's been a great time,
so
man. Good talking to you, man.
We should do this again, and
we will.
Looking forward to some more of your stuff.
Yeah. Stay tuned. I got a lot more coming. It's going to be a fun ride.
And
all right.
Let's go.
All right. Faithful, let's go.